the question is, what happens from now? Where do we go from here? You know, I watched a bit of this last night, and then I have to admit I fell asleep. But I did try and watch, and what I saw was, you know, the 38-year-olds who are young men, the 38-year-olds who are still sort of grown up. This one is still a child. But here we are, Great Britain. We still hope we're great. And the Church of England. And what we believe in, if we're members of the Church of England, is forgiveness.
Yeah.
And so to move forward here, we have to think, well, forgiveness. With Harry, you see somebody who's actually now, and I did know him many years ago when I was helping with Walking with Wounded, and he was a nice young man. He's changed. I think all this therapy has not achieved the goal. It's actually sent him sideways.
Well,
and it's all this jargon that he's coming out with. So, is it for the royal family? The royal family are doing absolutely the right thing. They're just brushing it aside. With Harry, what Harry has to do is be a man. He's got to grow up, stop throwing his toys out of the pram, and he's got to start forgiving, put the hand
well, this
out.
is the thing.
And
he's saying forgiveness is 100% a possibility. I mean, he's obviously after an apology. Joe, I'll bring you in. I can't help but wonder whether or not the apology that Harry wants is not from his family, it's from God for being born second, isn't it?
Well, he's not going to get any kind of an apology at all. Yes, he's obviously completely still overwhelmed and traumatised by his mother's death. He's now livid with the press, livid with the royal family. He's full of anger, defence, muddled thoughts. I mean, you wouldn't, any family, suggest, if you want some kind of reconciliation, that you go on telly or you write a book or you do documentaries, basically spilling all the family secrets, and then expect somehow, it's delusional thinking. It's not naive, it's not lofty. It's bizarre. You would not then expect in any way, shape or form that they would suddenly open up and say, hey, Guy, we hear what you're saying, let's make up and it'll all be good. It's just never, ever going to happen.
No, it's not. Joe, I'll stick with you before I return to the side of this. And Joe, when you're looking at Prince Harry, are you seeing quite a damaged man?
Yeah, I'm seeing a man who's seriously troubled. He's very confused about what he's saying. He contradicts himself a lot. I noticed Tom Bradley called him out on many times of the things he said. I was quite impressed with, but he didn't really seem to have an answer. Liz is right. He's got has a lot of therapy. You can hear it in the way he speaks, you know, using phrases we just heard, like distorted narrative, using words like catharsis. You know, he's clearly had a lot of therapy, and the problem is he doesn't seem to be able to find any closure or solace or comfort from any of this. So why is he moving forward with his own blessed family, his wife and 2 children, and learn to, if he's processing it, he's got to leave some of this behind and move on forward without expecting any accountability from the royal family.
Liz, I can see you're itching to get involved. I mean, if he has had therapy, it's not worked, does it?
you know what's so sad is it's not a question of apology. It's him getting his values right. You know, the most important thing in life is family. You know, people get married, people get divorced, they move on, children are with you forever, hopefully, but it's family. And at the end of the day, in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, he will regret this. I know he will. And, you know, if he goes on as he is, he won't have the family there. And it,
well, he won't.
And it will hurt him for the rest of his life. And I know this. I know what happens. You break up with a sibling, and then 10 years later, finally you make up, and you've wasted 10 years.
That's what people say, isn't it? You hear people say that a lot, and about, you know, fathers and mothers as well, where unfortunately, you know, it's right up until where they're on their deathbed or something, and they think, actually, you know, we've wasted 20 years, 30 years, and you hope that that hasn't happened. Joe, will Harry be getting anything out of this now? Are we now living Harry's therapy? Is this him just sticking two fingers up to his family and feeling better about it? Because surely a lot of people would have said, Harry, you know, you've got to leave this now, Joe.
I think there's a lot of self-analysis going on, but there's very little self-awareness coming out of it. So I think he will probably stop soon. He's obviously now been asked by his publishers to make sure he does a lot of PR around the new book, and he's obliged to do it. But however, I get the feeling he's tired of it. I don't even think he's aware some of the time of what he's actually saying, or that his expectations are, mad, or that the fact that it's the irony of him actually letting all the family secrets out while still wanting his own privacy. His self-awareness seems to be very low.
I must say, I am actually at the point of genuine confusion with this now, where I'm like, well, do you actually want a relationship with your family? Is he playing some kind of game, badly potentially, or is he, dare I say it, maybe a little bit dim and genuinely doesn't understand? I don't see how anyone could have that little self-awareness. But Liz, in your role as an etiquette and behaviour expert, how will the royal family be looking at this now, do you think? Because it's just not cricket, is it?
With sadness. If you imagine that that's your son or your brother, your relative, and to see how he's behaving and realising that he doesn't understand the damage he's doing.
And nothing's his fault, by the way. Sorry to interrupt, Liz, but nothing's his fault, is it? He didn't realise that the P word was a bad word. Everyone knows the P word is one of the worst words because he was wrapped in privilege. Come off it.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's the fact that, as I said, 38 years old, he's got a whole life ahead of him, and he is doing right now so much damage, which is, to us, it looks irreparable. And I know that that's why it's not just the silence because the royal family believe in that. It's because what do you say to somebody whose mind and whose behaviour has been changed to the extent, whether it's through therapy, whether it's through the woman in his life, a great sadness, and damaging.
And it is a shame. I mean, at the end of the day, as long as he's happy, that's the main thing. But to me, he doesn't look happy.
He's not happy.
He does not look like a happy man.